Hello everyone, this is Siddharth Mehta. I am the mentor at Career Launcher for English and Verbal and author of Critical Reasoning Nuggets. So today I am here with another exercise on critical reasoning and reading comprehension that will help you in the exams like CAT, CLAT, IPM or any exam which has reading comprehension or critical reasoning as one of its part. So let us begin. What I have done today is I have picked up a passage from nature.org, a popular science journal, and here is a small passage, and I have framed 5 questions around this small passage. If you wish, you can stop the video, read the passage, and then proceed further. Right. So first and foremost, let me explain you what the passage is basically talking about. Let us read it very quickly. Given their potential, you would think investment in nature would be a key priority. Question mark. So author has raised a question, then definitely he's going to answer this, isn't it? So the author is saying that you would think that because nature is important, investment in nature would be a key priority. Well, you would be wrong. Investment in nature represents just 3% of global finance dedicated to protecting the climate, a frustratingly small proportion. So the first passage set up the context that although one would believe that nature is important and therefore a lot of amount should be invested in nature, but only 3% of the global finance which is dedicated to climate, that represents that 3% is the investment made in the nature. So very less percent of the total budget in the climate goes for the protection of nature or something of that sort. Carbon offsets, a critical tool for doing this is hung up in a dispute over whether offsets are just greenwashing. So now it talks about that there is an important tool, carbon offset, which is of course for climate protection. It is hung up in a dispute, and people are saying whether it is just a greenwashing. What does greenwashing means? Greenwashing means corporates do something to show that they worry about the environment or nature, but in reality they are not. So that is greenwashing, a sort of pretense or a fake step. These criticisms resurfaced recently after UN Special Envoy on Climate Action, and there is detailed a blueprint for expanding the global carbon offset market. So here the author has introduced a tool, carbon offset, and it says that this paragraph talks about that carbon offset is hung up in a dispute. And what is the dispute? Whether offsets are just greenwashing, are just a way of greenwashing. So the second paragraph, an important tool has been introduced, and what is the dispute over it, that has been talked about. Now the author talks about next. So what are the carbon offsets and what's the debate about? The idea is this. So here comes the explanation of carbon offset. What is carbon offset? So first paragraph, introduction, why we are that there is a low investment in nature. Second paragraph, an important tool to protect nature is in dispute. Then the definition of that important tool. What is that important tool? The idea is this: companies or individual can buy and trade credits to offset a portion of their carbon emission, with the revenue paid to landowners or communities as an incentive to protect and restore the forest. This prevents emissions from destruction of nature and absorbs the carbon in atmosphere. So this is what carbon offset stands for. Let us understand one thing, that even if we do not understand entire process of carbon offset, it doesn't matter, because if the question comes, we can see and mark this. In reading comprehension or critical reasoning, it becomes important for us to first and foremost understand what is the idea of the passage and what is the structure of the entire passage. So if we have understood the structure, it is fine. So here we have the definition. This is the definition of carbon offset, what carbon offset is all about. Now comes the next paragraph. The trouble is means the dispute. So here he has talked about that there is one particular dispute in paragraph number 2. So this is elaboration of what that dispute is. The trouble is, some critics, many of them my fellow environmentalists, see this investment in nature as a license for corporate to pollute. Moral hazards, they claim, that amount to greenwashing. So this is explanation of paragraph number 2. So this paragraph number 2, and this is the explanation. What does greenwashing means and why people are criticizing? I can sympathize with this reasoning. So author is saying that I can sympathize with this, but when he is sympathizing, he will definitely present another angle to it. So here comes another angle. Many corporations have assiduously worked against responsible climate and environmental policy, but that tide is turning. This is a switch. That's what I said. He is sympathizing with this reasoning that it amounts to greenwashing, but also goes on to says that yes, there are many corporates who have worked against this, but the tide is changing. That now it means that corporates are realizing the importance of environment or climate policies. That's what last passage talks about. Leading companies now acknowledge their foundational dependence on nature and stable climate. So this paragraph number 5 is just the follow-up of what was mentioned in the previous paragraph, that the tide is changing. Many corporations previously were doing this, but according to the author, the tide is changing. Leading companies now acknowledge that they are dependent on nature and stable climate and recognize the need to protect it by buying carbon offset, a pragmatic and effective tool. Any further delay in deploying this tool will plunge humanity into climate of catastrophe of much greater impact. That's the real moral hazard we face today. So what does the passage talks about? The passage talks about carbon offset. That's the content, right? So if you have to find out the main idea, that's what you need to do. You just first and foremost identify what is the main content. Main content is carbon offset as a tool for climate protection. Carbon offset as a tool for carbon protection. That is the content. What is author's view about it? Author says that it is a pragmatic tool. And although few people and few of his own colleagues, environmentalists, they have disputed the usage of carbon offset, but author says that that is changing now. So few fellow environmentalists of the author, they have suggested that it amounts to greenwashing. Author says that yes, in past it has amounted to greenwashing, but right now that is changing. So this is the author's view. So if the question comes on what is the main idea, we know that main idea is author is supporting carbon offset as a tool for climate protection. So this is the entire passage about. Let us see the question. The first question is, which of the following can be inferred from the passage? Please remember, inferred means very important. How do you solve the inferred question? Inferred question means something mentioned in the passage, but in different language. Something that is mentioned in the passage, but in a slightly different language. That is your inference question. First one, some companies have now started acknowledging that they are completely dependent on nature and climate stability. Yes, the author says here that leading companies now acknowledge their foundational dependence on nature and stable climate. But is it completely dependent? Can we say that some companies now acknowledge that they are completely dependent? Now, this completely makes it an extreme option. That's why I will say that we cannot infer it. This is a rotten option. There is a rotten word here, completely. Rotten means a bad word, extreme word. So this is not the answer. One is not the inference, because I cannot say completely. Yes, they have started acknowledging that their foundational dependence on nature and stable climate is there, right? And they recognize the need to protect it, but we cannot say that they're completely dependent. So this is rotten. Second is, greenwashing is a possible undesirable outcome of carbon offset. Definitely, yes, this can be inferred, because even author says that yes, many corporations have done that in the past, but that tide is turning. So even though the tide is turning, we cannot say that it is not a possible outcome. Maybe few have changed, but few have not changed. So this is definitely something that I can infer, because there is a possibility. Look how balanced this is. There is a possibility of undesirable outcome. Yeah, so answer is only 2. Option number 2, only 2. Next, with respect to carbon offsets, all of the following are true except, important word is except. So I have to find out of the 4, there will be 3 options which are true. I have to find out the one which is not true. One, there is a debate around it. Yes, there is a debate around it, because author says that it is disputed. In the paragraph number 2 and paragraph number 5, he has talked about it. So this is definitely true. It is the most important tool that can help in protecting climate. Is it the most important tool? Author has said that it is a critical tool, but there is a difference between important and most important. This is a rotten word. This passage doesn't talk about this. So answer has to be B, but let us see whether C and D are given in the passage. It involves trading of carbon credits. Yes, it is given here. It involves buy and trade of carbon credit. So this is also true. The landowners and communities are among its stakeholders. Yes, this is also given, that about landowners and communities. So this is also true. Answer is option number B. And what is the problem here? Again, the same problem as we saw. There is one extreme word, one rotten word here. Next, which of the following is similar in logic, similar to logic as presented in the first paragraph? So the first paragraph, it talks about that you will think that there is because of its potential, more investment will be there in nature, but only 3% of the entire global finance is the global finance in climate is there in has been invested in nature. Okay, so let us see. So what is the argument in the first one? Let me write so that it will become easy. That one would imagine that nature would have high investment because of its importance. Nature would have high investment, but it is not the case. Only 3% of total climate budget is devoted to nature, something of that sort. So let us see. Given his potential, you would assume that Rishabh will make the captain of the cricket team, but you are wrong. So this part looks fine. Indian cricket team never invest in the future. Now this part doesn't gel because the first part is fine. That because you given the potential of something, you would assume that more investment or thing will be done on that particular thing. Here it is Rishabh, the person being talked about, but you are wrong. Indian cricket team never invest in the future. The argument in the first passage is not about future, it is the current state of things, so this cannot be the answer. Second, given its efficiency, you would assume that vaccination will be key priority, but you would be wrong. Again, the first part looks fine. Let's look at the second part. Indian government has invested frustratingly less thought and time behind executing the vaccination drive. They have invested less thought and time, but my argument is that the given argument in the first passage is that invested X% of the total. So here that part is not coming. How much of the total time and thought has been invested in the vaccination? That is not coming out. So right, there is no denominator in option number B through which I can compare. Let us look at option number C. Given its efficiency, you would assume that vaccination will be a key priority, but you would be wrong. Again, the first part is fine. Indian government has invested very less proportion of the healthcare budget in the vaccination drive. Yes, this looks fine. Less proportion is like 3% of the healthcare budget, means of the climate budget. Vaccination drive is something in which one would expect that there would be more investment. So answer is option number C. Next, a suitable title to the passage would be, the best way to solve the title question is identify the main idea. And we have already identified the main idea as carbon offsets are important tool for protecting environment as per the author, right? So main idea is carbon offsets and its utility as per the author. So option A, carbon offsets a pragmatic tool for climate protection. You looks a very good option, but let us see other. Carbon offsets and its drawback. No, this is not the title because that is not the main idea. The author has just talked about that there is a dispute around it, but he has said that that dispute is unwarranted. So B cannot be the answer. Carbon offsets a big moral hazard. So this is again a trap. Of course, the word moral hazard has been given, but author has not called this as a moral hazard. In fact, author has called something else as moral hazard. What has he called as moral hazard? That if we do not invest on carbon offset, then there will be a bigger climate catastrophe tomorrow. So this certainly is not the answer. Solutions to protect environment. No, he has only given one solution. So this cannot be the answer. Option A is my right answer. Last, which of the following is a statement of fact rather than opinion? All right. So out of these two, I have to identify which of the following is a statement of fact. The statement of fact can be something which can be verified. That is called as a statement of fact. Fact can be verified. Opinion varies from person to person. It's a judgment. Okay. Let us see. Investment in nature represents just 3% of the global finance dedicated to protecting the climate. Perfect. Till here, it is fact. But what makes it an opinion is a frustratingly small proportion. Now, you cannot verify whether this proportion, which is of course small, is frustrating because it will vary from person to person. To someone, you may go and ask someone who doesn't believe in the fact that climate is getting polluted or there is a global warming. He will say that it is not frustratingly low, it is okay. So frustrating makes it opinion of the author. Rest all things can be verified. So this is an opinion and not a fact. Remember, when there is an extreme kind of adjective or adverb in this case presented in the sentence, which cannot be verified, which is itself subjective in nature, it cannot be a fact. So what I'm saying is all the part till this particular line, this particular word, climate, this was a fact. But a frustratingly small proportion is author's opinion. So that makes it an opinion. So first one is not a fact, it is an opinion. Second, these criticisms resurfaced recently after the UN Special Envoy on this detailed a blueprint for expanding further. Yeah. So can this be verified? Yes, this can be definitely verified. You can check whether the criticism resurfaced again or not after this happened. If criticism resurfaced or not, you can get answer to this in yes or no. Whatever way you get the answer, it can be verified. It is a fact. So answer is only option number 2. So please remember, in the first option, which looks a fact, a frustratingly small proportion is author's opinion. The second one is purely something which can be verified, and answer can come out in yes or no. So answer is only 2. So that is it from my side. Thank you very much. I hope that you learned how to solve few different type of question. That's it. Bye.